how to tell stories that are hypnotic. What's up, everyone? So, very quickly, how powerful would it be if you could capture and maintain people's attention while you told a story while secretly influencing them at a whole nother level? So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to another episode of Unconscious Communication Secrets. And in this episode, we're talking about ways that you can tell stories that are hypnotic. Once upon a time. Now, very quickly, I just give you a very quick analogy. I want you to imagine for a moment that you have a plane, right? And a plane can contain a whole lot of passengers. Each of those passengers can have different skills and they can go from one place to another, but you can take a whole lot of different skills to a different place. And depending on how you fill the plane can determine how many different skills that you take to a different place. So for example, if you had a relief effort, right? A pilot would take very specific kind of people to a destination. And I want you to think of your stories as one of those, like a plane, because you can fill it with as many different things as you want, as many different elements as you want. And you can transport people. You can transport people with your stories and give them so much benefit just by your storytelling. So let me go back here. Yeah, so a plane can now, as I said, today we're talking about hypnotic storytelling. How do you capture attention? How do you captivate and influence at a whole other level? So why is this important? Well, ultimately, with your storytelling, you can captivate people, but you can also plant ideas in a way that there's no resistance. And I want you to think of, for example, if somebody came to you and said, yo, you have to read this book. There's a little bit of resistance. You're kind of like, should I, but if you go to tell someone, oh my God, you know what? Oh, this problem that you're having, it reminds me of my friend Ahmed. Ahmed was having exactly the same problem. And then he went and read this book and he said this book changed his life. He swore by it. He said that this was the best book ever. Now, all of a sudden, if you want to read the book, it's your idea. I didn't tell you to read the book, but it's your idea. And when we think of things that are our idea, it becomes like it's something that all of a sudden, yeah, okay, now I want to do that. So don't underestimate the power of people coming up with their own ideas. So let me go through this very quickly. Sorry. Now, I want to just tell you a story very quickly of how I discovered this tool, because when I was in the UK, I witnessed this tool from one of the greatest hypnotists and like an amazing storyteller. That was Dr. Richard Bandler. He's an amazing storyteller. And I saw him at one point, I saw him actually turn to somebody, look them in the eye, and say, shut the hell up or I'll throw you out. And the person who was very disruptive went from being disruptive to being very quiet, and he was not insulted at all. And I'm going to share with you how, because when I say it the way I've said it, it sounds ludicrous. But when I tell you exactly how he did it, you'll be like, oh my God, that makes sense. And it was one of the most elegant ways of sort of telling a story that I'd ever seen that influences people at such an unconscious level. So here's what happened. Basically, this guy was sitting in the audience and he was making a big, he was just being disruptive, like he was talking out loud, etc. And what happened was initially, Dr. Richard Bandler sort of looked at him a couple of times, and then And then at one point he just he started with a story, and he goes, you know what, this reminds me of a long time ago. I was at a seminar, and there was a guy over there that was extremely disruptive, and I saw Milton Erickson at the front, and he looked at this person that was disruptive, and he looked at them and told them to be quiet initially, but they hadn't been quiet. And then he walked up to the person and he said, you have been extremely annoying. And while Dr. Richard Bandler is saying this, he goes up to the guy as part of the story. He says, you have been extremely disruptive, and if you don't shut the hell up, I'm gonna kick you out. And he said this as he's looking at the guy. And then he says, but you know what? I mean, that was a bit extreme. I mean, it always shocked me how some people are very rough with their audience, but I would never do something like that. And he starts he kind of walks away. So he's told the story, he's looked at the guy, he's said what he wanted to say within the context of a story, and walks away. And all he's done is tell a story. But then this guy, and then this guy just literally just goes quiet because of Dr. Richard Bandler's story. This is how powerful it is. You can walk up to someone and say what you want within the context of a story, and what happens is the guy will just come up with his idea on his own, thinking, okay, yeah, you know what, I need to be quiet, just on my own. So let's talk about 14 power moves to hypnotic stories, not part one, but these are the different 14 elements that we're going to be talking about today. So let's get started.
Number one.
So the first thing is you want to have relevance, okay? A story is going to be relevant to you. You're going to listen to a story if it's relevant to you. Now, I'll give you an example. Like a while ago, I've been doing videos for close to 200 and something days. I don't know how many days. But after 100 days, I was kind of getting a bit frustrated. Like, you know, I'm not getting the kind of traction that I kind of wanted to get. And I listened to a guy called Nas Daily. You may know him. He makes videos every single day. And he was telling a story about when he started and how he just said, you know what, I'm going to make videos every single day. I don't care who sees them, whoever. And it took him, I don't know, 200 and something days before it ultimately started getting traction. And he just said, you know what, I just went in it with no expectations. And so I'm listening to that story, and that's relevant to me. So I'm kind of like, I get truly inspired by it because it's relevant to me. So when you have a story, what creates inspiration is when you relate to the story, you relate at some level to the struggles that someone's going through. That's when we get most inspired. But if we can't relate to it at all, then it's not going to be hypnotic at all. So you want to find a way that relates to your audience. So that's number one.
Here's number two.
Number two is you want to have a hero or a heroine, basically someone that is the subject of your story, someone that the story revolves around. And when you have a hero or a heroine, then your story revolves around that person, your listener sometimes identifies with the person in that story. And that's very powerful. When your listener identifies with the person in that story, that's what you want to have happen. So this is very basic, but it's ultimately you have to have someone that the story revolves around. So let's go on to
number three.
And number three, you want an antagonist. Like, this is like, what is the hero or the subject of the story trying to overcome? Now, it doesn't need to be a different person. It doesn't need to be an evil person. It can be, if you're trying to tell a persuasive story, what objection would the person have? if you gave them the advice right up front, what objection would they have? That can be the antagonist. That can be the person that the thing that this person is up against. No time is an antagonist. Your environment is an antagonist. A person is an antagonist. A feeling of not being confident is an antagonist. So what is the person looking to overcome? So that's number 3.
Number 4. Number 4.
And then you want to have in the story a moment of epiphany, a moment of realization. This is a moment where the hero or the person in the story has a moment where, oh, okay, they've learned something new that they didn't know before, or realized something that they hadn't really thought of before. This is the moment of the turning point for a person to go from where they were to where they want to be. And then
here's number 5. Here's number 5.
Number 5 is the actual transformation. I mean, think of it. Think of Spider-Man, for example. Spider-Man, he starts off as this geeky boy, and then he becomes this hero, confident hero. Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit. He starts off a person in a village, not having had an adventure, not being brave enough, and then the person that they become. Every great story has a transformation, a before and after. What is the after element of your story? So that is number 5.
Number 6. Number 6.
Then number 6 is the result. This is the the winning, the knowledge that they've gained. Sorry, that's not number 6. Number 6 is quotations. Quotations, if you're going to look at making a story hypnotic, you want to give advice that someone else had given. And my Richard Bandler story is one example. However, when I was working, I tell a story of how my boss came to me at one point in time and said that the company is downsizing, and that I have health insurance, even though I don't plan on getting sick. I have car insurance because I don't plan on having, even though I don't plan on having an accident. But what was my plan B for my income? And I'm telling people that they should have a plan B for their income, but I'm not directly saying it. I'm telling them in a story that somebody told me. So I'm in the context of a story, then I'm getting that advice, or it's coming as a result of quotation, and people will take that advice because it has it's been planted in their mind. So that's the number 6.
Here is number 7.
Now, number 7 is using something called embedded commands. Now, embedded commands is an NLP term or a hypnotic term, but basically, it is where you're unconsciously asking people to do different things. Now, there are a few elements that make an embedded command. It's an unconscious command. It's like it slips through the cracks. So the first one is your tonality. And here's what I mean by this. If you're asking a question, when you ask a question, your tonality goes up. Like, sound good? Like, does that sound good? It goes up. Am I good? Am I good? That's a question because your tonality goes up. But if you want someone to do something, you tell someone, do it. The tonality goes down at the end of a sentence. So like if you said, I want you to relax. I don't know, do you? That's a question. But if I just said, relax, I'm telling you to relax. So there's a tonality difference in there. So that's the first element. So that's part A. Also realizing that the mind is a pattern making machine. So if you were to look at these numbers, if I said 100, 200, 300, 400, you'd know what the next number was. If I went 100, 99, 98, 97, you'd know what the next number was. 11, 22, 33, 44. You get where I'm going with this. Your mind is a pattern making machine. Like, you don't need to consciously think. Your mind will automatically go, okay, there's a pattern over here. Even though you're not saying, like, your mind automatically fills in the blank of a pattern. So you don't need to sort of say, oh, there is a pattern here, I wonder what the pattern is. Your mind automatically just skips all of that and just fills in the blanks. So when you're speaking and you pepper embedded commands like very frequently in sort of a pattern, your mind will pick up on it, even if you don't consciously realize it. So this is very, very powerful. So when you're using embedded commands, you want to use patterns. And then you want to use simple commands. You don't, like, what do I mean by that? If you're doing an embedded command, you don't want to go, okay, and I want you to go to the bank and then go and speak to the teller and ask them to write down your address and da da da. You don't want to say like a whole bunch of things. You just want to go, and I want you to just relax. Like just relax. Like relax is a simple command, or get inspired, or feel happy, or these are different themes that you can embed within your talk, within your stories. So simple commands, then mark them out. Mark them out just means make them a little bit more obvious. So if I'm talking and I could talk and I could tell a story, and then the guy turned around to the other person and said, relax now. And then da 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 da. So what I've done is I've given a bit of space before and after to make it a little bit more obvious. So you're marking it out. So that's next one. And then congruency. If you're talking about being happy, then you want to be happy and show how happy you are. Hey, Rohini, what's up? Great to see you. Always a pleasure. It's been so long. Great to hear you. All right. So when you're giving a suggestion, a hypnotic suggestion, you want to be congruent. If you're talking about relaxation, it's not going to be useful for you to go relax and you got to relax and I want you to relax and relax deeply. No, just allow yourself to relax. See, I'm congruent with what I'm saying. Or if I'm talking about, and then just experience such gratitude. I'm going first. I'm feeling gratitude, and so my voice portrays gratitude. So you want to allow your voice to be congruent with what you're talking about. Okay, so so that was embedded commands, and then
number 8.
Switching referential index. So when we talk about switching referential index, what do I mean? It's going from I to you. So in a story, basically, I'm talking about breaking the rules of English. So, for example, I could tell a story of when I was thinking of buying this course, and I looked at the course and I said, "Oh my God, $5,000." But then I say to yourself. Notice I said, I say to yourself. Okay, I say to yourself, if you don't, and then I could go, if you don't invest now, it could cost you more in the long run. Like I could talk and I could shift from my thoughts to, if I'm talking to myself, but I'm saying, if you don't invest now, it's something that I'm saying to myself, for example. So I'm shifting from an I to a you. So this is very powerful when you're telling a story, because people will unconsciously register that you're talking to them, but at the same time, consciously, they think you're telling the story. So again, very, very powerful. So I to you. And then number nine, hypnotic power words. So I have a whole number of videos on these, but there's been a couple of Harvard studies which talk about hypnotic power words and how powerful they are. And some of the patterns that I have a number of other videos that you can check out and on my channel with regards to some of these language patterns. But these are very, very, very powerful. So let's just move on to
number 10.
Number 10 is open loops. Now, where if you went to see Avengers Endgame, I don't know if you've seen it, but like when I went to see that movie, I watched it, and when it came towards at the end of the movie, part one, I was just sitting there. I was like, oh my God, like,
Say what?
I couldn't, like, I was like, oh no, I need to know what happened. I need to know what happened because it ended on such a cliffhanger. I'm not going to like spoil the story for you if you haven't seen it, but I was like, oh my God, like what? I need to know what happened. I need to know what happened. And I had waited for months, like to see the next movie. And what happens is when you open a loop, this is why TV shows do it. When you open a loop, your mind wants closure. And so if you keep a loop open, you can open a loop. It really gets your mind thinking of what are all the different possibilities. And it can be very powerful in that regard. So number 10 is open loops.
Number 11.
Number 11 is having stories within stories. If you see Inception, that was like a very powerful example of this, where the guy's telling like a story, and then they go into a dream, and then a dream within the dream, and then within the dream. It's very, very hypnotic in that sense, because you're trying to remember what level of story you're at. And so and just like Inception works, like if you've seen the movie, you can implant something deep within the third level of story. And so that can be very, very powerful when it comes to hypnotic stories. So that's number 11.
Number 12.
Number 12 is symbols. And we think very much in symbols, or we have different things that represent different items to us. So if a storm sort of represents like a blocking of energy. So if you're telling a story and someone it was a stormy day and the person was troubled, it kind of naturally flows. But then they wanted a bit of insight. They looked into a pool of water and they reflected upon themselves, and a vision kind of came to them. And it's just like this, the clouds parted and the sun shone through. These are all symbols that our mind recognizes as powerful representations. When someone goes to water, it's like a moment of insight if they look at their reflection. When it's a storm, it could be a blocking of energy or a troubling time. When the clouds part and the sun comes through, it's like an epiphany. When the sun rises, it's a new beginning. So these are very powerful symbols that we can utilize. And then number
13.
Number 13 is metaphors. So metaphors are very powerful because our mind, again, thinks in metaphors. It thinks in symbols. So and when you explain things in metaphors, it simplifies things in the way that your mind enjoys listening to it. So for example, if you've seen the movie Inside Out, it talks about how in your brain you have someone that represents anger, someone that represents fear, someone that represents joy, etc. And you have different people, and they control different things, etc. And so it's a great representation. Is it accurate? Do you have people in your mind? No, you don't have people in your mind, but it gives you a great way to think about things, that to understand new concepts and to learn at a different level, because then you can go and all that it takes is for these guys to work together. Instead of saying, oh, in your mind, you need to let the emotions merge together and but without getting too complex. Okay, so that is number 13, is metaphors.
Number 14.
And no, that was it. No, so 13. I got 13 today. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you have not, if you enjoy this sort of thing, do subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/Munir. I have a whole bunch of hypnotic videos around this subject, and that's basically it for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I appreciate you all. And I will see you on another episode very, very soon. Peace out, one love, and I will catch you on another episode real soon. Bye for now.